What if the moment you've been waiting for, there's somewhere, hidden in the future, but right here, tonight? Imagine a young woman, surrounded by the hum of a world that tells her who she should be, quietly picking up a pen in the stillness of the night. That's where Quentin Tarantino's story begins, and it's a spark that resonates deeply with women everywhere. Women who felt the weight of expectation, yet dared to carve their own paths. This isn't just about a filmmaker. It's about the fire of resilience, the power of a single decision, and the way philosophy lights the way toward freedom. As a young American philosopher, storyteller, and advocate for women, I see his journey as a mirror for our own, a testament to how creativity and courage can break societal chains. In the next few moments, we'll explore how one night of boldness turned an ordinary dreamer into a legend, and how that same spark lives in every woman ready to rewrite her story. From the chaos of doubt to the clarity of self-discovery, this is about empowerment, not just for one, but for all of us, especially women and the next generation we inspire. Quentin Tarantino's name echoes through cinema like a defiant shout, a blend of irreverence, style, and raw authenticity that refuses to bend to predictable molds. His films don't follow the neat lines of Hollywood formulas. They twist, they shout, they live. His characters don't just speak, they talk as if they're perched on the bar stool next to you, spilling truths with the casual intensity of a friend who's seen too much. Every frame pulses with the energy of someone who didn't just watch movies, but devoured them. A young man who grew up not in the polished halls of film school, but in the flickering glow of a video rental store, surrounded by VHS tapes that were more real to him than the world outside. He absorbed every cut, every line, every beat, then handed it back to us with a signature no one else could dream of replicating. Tarantino doesn't direct films, he breathes them, lives them, feeds off them. His stories zigzag instead of marching straight. His dialogues crackle like real conversations overheard in a diner at midnight. And his references weave high culture with the gritty pulse of pop entertainment. He does what he wants, how he wants, and somehow it works. But let's step back. Before he was the Quentin Tarantino, he was just Quentin, a young man with no money, no degree, no safety net. He wasn't born into privilege or handed a golden ticket to Hollywood. He worked at video archives in Manhattan Beach, California, in the late 1980s, a job that paid the bills but fed his soul. There, among the shelves of forgotten B-movies and cult classics, he didn't just rent tapes, he studied them. He talked for hours with customers and co-workers, dissecting scripts, analyzing scenes, debating the tiniest details as if he were already part of that world. But he wasn't. Not yet. He was an outsider, a dreamer peering through the glass, close enough to taste it, but not to touch it. Like so many women today, he had a vision and a fire, but he also had every excuse to let it die. No connections, no formal education, no clear path. He could have stayed there, clocking in and out, letting the years blur into a comfortable haze. Think of Sarah, a single mother I met in Chicago in 2022. She worked nights at a diner, pouring coffee for truckers while her kids slept at her sister's place. She'd always wanted to write, to tell stories of the women she saw every day, their quiet strength, their unspoken battles. But life pressed down hard, bills piled up, and the notebook in her bag stayed blank. She'd tell me, "I'll start when things settle down." But that moment never came. Like Quentin, she had a dream. Like Quentin, she had reasons to wait. But unlike Sarah then, Tarantino didn't wait. One random night, with no mentor, no big studio, no promise of success, he made a choice. He grabbed a blank sheet of paper and started writing. Not because the stars aligned, but because he decided they would. That's how Reservoir Dogs began, scribbled in a frenzy of late-night ink. A script that would eventually sell for $50,000. And launch him into the spotlight. How many times have you, as a woman, pushed something aside because the timing wasn't right? How many ideas have you tucked away, waiting for permission or perfection? I think of Maria, a college student I counseled in 2023, who dreamed of starting a podcast about Latina women in philosophy. She had the equipment, the passion, but she kept saying, "I'm not ready. What if I fail? What if the change you're waiting for doesn't drift in on its own? What if it's not about time, but about that one bold move?" Nighttime has a way of stripping away the noise. During the day, we're drowned in it, notifications pinging, kids crying, bosses demanding, societal norms whispering what we should be. But when the sun dips below the horizon, when the lights dim and the world quiets, something shifts. The mind breathes. Thoughts buried under the day's chaos rise up, unshackled. That's when the dots connect, when ideas that seemed impossible in the daylight start to make sense. For women, this quiet rebellion of the night feels almost sacred. It's where we reclaim ourselves from the roles we're forced into: mother, wife, worker, caregiver. I remember nights in 2021 sitting with my friend Aisha, a nurse who'd spent her days battling COVID chaos in a New York hospital. After her shifts, she'd sit by her window, sketching designs for a clothing line that celebrated Black women's resilience. The day takes everything, she'd say, but the night gives it back. That's when Tarantino thrived too. While Los Angeles slept, he was awake, lost in a universe of scripts and scenes that didn't exist yet. He'd watch classics like The Good, The Bad and the Ugly, scribbling notes, or debate Pulp Fiction's dialogue with his friend Roger Avary until dawn. Night wasn't rest, it was his canvas. This isn't unique to him. Salvador Dali and Thomas Edison tapped into that liminal space between wakefulness and sleep, holding objects that would fall and jolt them awake, capturing the wild ideas that bloom there. For women, this space is a refuge. Think of Maya, a teacher I met in 2020 in Atlanta, who'd lie awake after grading papers, dreaming up a non-profit to get books into the hands of girls in foster care. Those late-night whispers turned into pages for power, which by 2024 had reached over 3,000 kids. Night is when the mind breaks free, when societal rules loosen, when we can imagine beyond the boxes we're stuffed into. Haven't you felt it? Lying in bed, replaying the day, rewriting moments, seeing truths you missed in the rush? Night isn't just an end, it's a beginning. But beginnings scare us. Failure looms large, especially for women who ought to fear mistakes more than men. Society tells us to be perfect, to never stumble, or we'll be judged twice as hard. I think of Lisa, a tech worker I knew in 2019 who pitched an app to empower women in STEM, but froze when her first demo crashed. She almost quit, terrified of being seen as a fraud. Tarantino didn't run from failure, he ate it for breakfast. Every rejection, every script that didn't sell, every night he doubted himself, he turned into fuel. He once said, "When life screws me over, I write a character who's been screwed worse." His pain became dialogue, his frustrations became scenes. Look at Pulp Fiction. Vincent Vega's awkward dance with Mia Wallace wasn't just plot. It was Tarantino wrestling his own insecurities onto the screen. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Tarantino took the chaos of his mind, the mess of his setbacks, and shaped it. Women do this every day, often without fanfare. Take Rosa, a seamstress I met in 2023 in Texas, who'd fled an abusive marriage with 2 kids and no money. She started sewing dresses from thrift store scraps, turning her pain into beauty. By 2024, her small business employed 5 other women escaping similar pasts. Failure isn't the end, it's raw material. Mistakes don't define us by how often they happen, but by what we build from them. For women, this is resilience distilled, not avoiding the fall, but rising from it stronger. Details matter too. Leonardo da Vinci said, "Details make perfection," and perfection is not a detail. Tarantino lives this. His films aren't just big moments, they're tiny choices stacked into brilliance. A cigarette flicked at the exact right second in GL, IR Space to DS, a pause in Kill Bill that screams louder than words, a soundtrack in Reservoir Dogs that hits like a punch. His dialogues aren't filler, they're choreography, every word deliberate, every silence heavy. His characters don't just advance the story, they breathe, they rant, they feel real enough to meet on the street. For women, this precision is power. I think of Priya, I mentored in 2022, who built an app for domestic violence survivors. She obsessed over every button, every alert, knowing one small flaw could cost someone's safety. By 2025, her app had helped over 10,000 and women escape danger. But brilliance isn't order. Nietzsche said, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Tarantino's process is a storm, fragmented stories, wild dialogues, characters born from unlikely collisions. He doesn't follow the screenwriter's playbook: plot first, then dialogue. He lets his characters talk, and the story follows. It's messy, uncontrolled, but it works because he trusts the chaos. Women know this dance. Lucas Eleanor, an artist I met in 2021 in Seattle, who painted murals of women's struggles. She'd start with random strokes, no plan, just erosion. By 2023, her work hung in galleries, raw and unscripted. Creativity isn't tamed, it's unleashed. How often do we stifle hours waiting for a perfect outline? What if we just began? Tarantino's genius wasn't a gift dropped in his lap. He wasn't born knowing how to make pulp fiction. He learned it, frame by frame, night by night. While others watched movies to unwind, he watched to dissect. He rewound a scene in The Wild Bunch 10 times, studying how a glance shifted the mood. He turned a video store into his university, a habit into his empire. James Clear writes in Atomic Habits, "You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." Tarantino's system was simple: show up every day. He wrote when he didn't feel like it, when no one cared, when the odds mocked him. That's what women do too. Think of Naomi, a poet I knew in 2020, who wrote a verse every morning before her factory shift. By 2024, her book of women's resilience sold 5,000 copies. Small steps repeated build worlds. He could have settled, stayed at the video store critiquing others' work, safe but unfulfilled. Instead, he acted. He mailed scripts to producers, cold called contacts, faced rejection after rejection. In 1990, he sent Reservoir Dogs to Harvey Keitel's agent on a whim. Keitel read it, loved it, and funded it. That gamble changed everything. Women take these leaps too. I think Fatima, a refugee I met in 2018 in Minneapolis, who taught herself coding on a borrowed laptop. She pitched to tech firms, got turned down dozens of times, but kept going. By 2023, she ran a startup training other immigrant women. The aim didn't stop her, it pushed her. Seneca said, "Life is long enough if you know how to use it." Tarantino didn't wait for permission, neither should we. Change doesn't creep, it strikes. Tony Robbins says, "It is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped." Tarantino's wasn't a slow climb, it was a choice. One night, he said yes to his dream, picked up that pen, and didn't look back. He didn't wait to be ready, he started anyway. Women's history is full of these moments. Rosa Parks didn't plan a movement on December 1, 1955. She just sat down and refused to move. That yes shifted the world. What's your yes? The night Tarantino wrote wasn't special, no fireworks, no signs, just a quiet choice. But it was everything. So woman to woman, I ask, what's stopping you tonight? Time? Fear? Maybe your revolution is one decision away. Quentin Tarantino's journey from a video store clerk to a cinematic titan isn't just a Hollywood tale. It's a philosophy of freedom that speaks to every woman erring to break free. It's about resilience, the kind women have wielded for centuries, turning chaos into creation, failure into fuel, and doubt into defiance. One night he chose to write, not knowing it would lead to Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, but trusting it would lead somewhere. That's the power of a single decision, a spark that lights up the dark, not just for him, but for us. As women, we face louder doubts, heavier norms, but our strength lies in this. We don't just survive the night, we shape it. Philosophy teaches us that freedom isn't given. It's claimed, and education, creativity, and will are our tools. So take this story, let it store you, and ask, what's your night? What's your choice? Share your thoughts, one step you'll take tonight toward your own freedom. Hit that like button if this resonated, subscribe for more stories of women rising, and pass this along to someone who needs that push. Your revolution starts now.